the bio. Should be fine. You got the thumbs up over there.
All right, we're going to get started today. Hilla Reinhart is a singer-songwriter whose debut album, Listen Up, was released on Interscope Records and 19 recordings. Reinhart grew up in Chicago, born into a world of music. Singing at the young age of 7, she began to take the stage alongside her parents in their band of 30 years called Midnight. Growing up watching her folks, she became heavily influenced by rock and roll, funk, pop, jazz, and the blues. She hit the stage with her high school jazz band when they toured across Europe, performing both at Montreux and Umbria jazz festivals. Reinhart continued to study jazz in college as she formed many bands and side collaborations. In 2011, she landed herself the third place title on season 10 of American Idol. Since then, she has toured the United States and abroad, singing and partaking in many songwriting camps around the globe. She has reached many different listeners, playing in festivals such as Lollapalooza, Sonic Boom, and the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival. Reinhart has made a mark performing with acts like Tony Bennett at the Nokia Theater, Slash at the MGM Grand, David Foster for Celebrity Night Fight, and the New Orleans Jazz Orchestra at Carnegie Hall. She is currently working on her sophomore album and recently released a new single/music video for song, Show Me Your Moves. Let's welcome our guest today, Hilla Reinhart.
Hi, how you guys doing?
So tell us, when you were in high school and you finished, instead of doing the university thing, you did what?
Well, I went to a community college. I was not running away from home. I really love my family, so I figured it would not only benefit our pocketbooks, but it would be nice to just stick around my family. So I went to Harper Community College, and they had a lot of great programs. You'd be surprised, a lot of the universities can be a lot of partying and not as much education. Of course, everywhere is different, but in my case, I would go run off on the weekends and come back home and really, get down to the work, the schoolwork.
And how long did you do that until you wind up testing your medal on American Idol?
Well, I was there for almost 2 years, or about 2 years. I almost got my associates. I was like about 2 classes short of that, so I plan on still doing that at some point. I figured I had to chase my dreams when it knocked on my door. So I tried out for Idol once in Chicago and got to the final, the judges, and they did a big story on my whole family. I didn't make it past that. The judges, it was a really weird experience. It kind of crushed me. I didn't plan on going back, really. But I received a call the next season, the day before auditions, and I figured, well, if this is coming my way, there must be some kind of fate in this phone call. So I just went in and relaxed a little more and just, let them have it.
Talk about the audition process for American Idol. What don't you see on television?
There is a lot you don't see. The fact that you first go in and there's the big cattle call, they may call it. So I would think I was in a 25,000 person line. So that's kind of how it is in each city, and they go to about, I don't know, maybe 12 cities or so. So there's that huge cattle call. And then once you make that, where you're in a huge arena or stadium and you're performing while you can hear the person next to you through a little cloth or whatever, a curtain, and once you make that, they narrow it down to, let's say 500, and you go to another audition sometime later, and there's about 4 more before you actually get to the real judges. So there's quite a few people and executive producers that you have to, get their approval before you're in.
So, other than it being a really tedious process, what's the what would you say the process is like? Or what are people thinking about? What are people going through when they're auditioning and they're going through all of this process before you get to the real judges?
Well, I mean, it's really interesting because, especially since there's time in between, we can't really talk about it. We have to keep everything confidential and until it pretty much airs, which is, it started off in, let's say, the summer, and then it airs in January. So there's quite a bit of time in between. And everybody, I mean, you get all different kinds of people going on. So,
Like what?
um, you know, there's the quiet type that keep to themselves, and then there's the other ones, the Broadway people that are ready to smash it, and then there's you know, some of the other folks that may not really be too great, and they try out anyways, and then they end up getting made fun of, which is very sad, sad reality. But you know, TV, I guess it's entertaining.
Um, is there anything you remember about the process before getting to the main judges that you thought was cool? Anything that you remember that was really eye-opening, or anything that you thought was tragic?
I thought that the producers and the guys that were filming us, it was really refreshing to see how intimate they made this experience. At least for myself, the first time around, they, like I said, they filmed my whole family and I singing like One Love, 3-part harmony, and they were just they wanted to capture something that was very unique and personal. So, and then we kind of walked around the city of Chicago and took different shots, and it was nice. They really made you feel you know, comfortable. And then again, I will say I did feel pretty blindsided when I was sitting next to I was sitting in between two gentlemen, and they were both, you know, very sharp dressed men, and they were really kind and they were very confident. And then I had heard them both go, and they were absolutely awful. So so then I realized, like, they put them there for a reason. They had them think they were amazing. But so hopefully they didn't get let down too hard. But you know, it was kind of a shock for me because I really had no idea that that's how it went down.
Okay, so then you get to the real judges.
Yeah.
Tell us what that's like.
Well, since I did try out twice, I got the first bunch, which was Simon, the originator, Simon Cowell, and then they had Shania Twain, who was a guest, along with Cara Dioguardi and Randy Jackson. And yeah, they seemed to be unhappy that day. So the next year when I tried out, I had a brand new panel, and this was very fresh because Simon had already left, and he was kind of planning to do X Factor. So it's not that he even really wanted a good season to happen, you know. It's just a very interesting dynamic. But he went on to do that. So they brought in, they kept Randy Jackson. They had Jennifer Lopez and Steven Tyler. And it was their first year, and they were pretty amazing, you know, shed a lot of new light to the show. It was great.
So what was it like when you got to meet those people and you auditioned?
I mean, especially Steven, I grew up with a lot of rock and roll, so he's just cut from such a raw cloth that I feel like, you know, our kind of voices, it was a really cool moment to have somebody kind of validate you who you've looked up to, and he's an icon. And you know, just growing up with my family, it meant a lot, especially like anything that he had to say, it hit, you know, really close to home for me. Yeah.
So when you get selected by the folks to be on TV and get in this round, do you get to stay in Chicago, or what happens?
Well, there's a few. How it pretty much works is you'll go out to LA, you'll do these different, well, depending where it is. So LA or Vegas, there was a Vegas round. So we'll go out and stay there for maybe, let's say, 10 days, and then we'll go back home for maybe like a month. And you continue to do this. So it's a really long process. I'd say from beginning to end. I mean, we start off in, let's say, June, July, and it goes until May of the next year. So it's pretty much, and then we do a tour afterwards, and that So it's well over a year, process.
Let's talk about when you're actually competing.
Yeah.
Tell me the best of all the things that happen when you're competing and when you're now on the world stage of television.
Well, there's a lot to learn. I mean, for me, I grew up with live performing, so that's always come kind of natural. And the thing that I had to really get educated on was communicating to a lens, through a lens to millions of people back home watching. So that there was a lot of different things, and plus you'd have a million different cameras on you, and a lot of stage directions. You have to really be able to sort through what kind of advice, critiques, direction that you want to actually take, or the stuff that you just kind of want to say thank you, but I need to do it my way, because there's going to be there were so many different mouths in my ear that I kind of just, I had to just have a balance, or otherwise you might go crazy,
Tell me everything that was difficult about television.
Well, that was a big part of it. I would say probably the biggest part was just having so many different people in your face at one time. But there's a lot to love as well. I mean, everybody that I dealt with, they were wonderful to work with, and I think having a live audience in the studio was also really cool. It was as people might look at the show and think it's maybe it's cheesy or fake or something, but it's pretty authentic, especially when I look at these other shows of today, the singing shows at least. Idol, it's pretty much what you see is what you get, and we sang live, so we would have to learn. Another difficult thing was week by week you'd have to learn more and more material, so we would have to, and sometimes it would be your choice, or sometimes, a judge would pick something for you. You never know, but the weeks were themed, so you just kind of had to dive right in and sink or swim.
Talk about famous people. So, not many people get to meet the range of famous people that somebody would meet once they are on American Idol, and it's a lot throughout the season, as well as the judges. What's the impact of fame, and what happens when you start to become famous? What's the change, or is there a change? Does everything stay the same before you're on television and you're on a highly visible show, or what things change, and what's the reality like around people who have a lot of fame?
Well, it was really cool, the mentors they chose to come on our show. So that was kind of our first introduction to meeting a lot of different celebrities and other icons. So we had, Sheryl Crow to Lady Gaga and who else? Beyonce, like all these heavy hitters. And what was really cool is there was a camaraderie from the get-go. So they were very... it was a very intimate experience. I remember even with somebody as huge as Beyonce, she was like, "This is so strange for me. Like I don't really know what I'm supposed to do. Like I'm just gonna give my authentic, opinion." And I'm like that because I was the first one she met with. And I'm like, well, that's all you need, But it was interesting to see these people kind of out of their element, and yet they were very sweet and treated everybody with the same equal, respect. And as far as things changed after that, dramatically. I don't think there's one thing that has remained the same other than, my beliefs and my morals and my love for my family. But, people come out of the woodwork once you start to get on the show, and there's a lot of people, new cousins and boyfriends that you've never heard of before, and so you just kind of have to weed through it and remain, in your element. And that's something that Idol really helped me with. Is it kind of put me into survival mode week to week. I became more dedicated and strictly focused on what I was doing, and just kind of let all of the other, things trying to break me down just kind of dissipate,
Did you see other people who navigated that really well, and have you seen other people that didn't navigate it well in terms of contestants on the show?
Yeah, most definitely. it's got to be a really wild thing to be very young and experience this. Uh, there was 15-year-olds that were on the show, and some of them were little angels and the others were little devils. You don't know. It's got to be tough. You have your mother there or your father, thank God for that, but you're just challenged with all these situations, and it's an overnight success. I mean, it's just overnight fame, so you really have to be stable enough to handle it, and everybody's going to break down at some point maybe, and but honestly, yeah, there's been a lot of different ways people handled it. I hope that they're all doing all right.
All right, so when you get to be number 3, and most people sit back, it's like going to the Grammys and getting your Grammy nomination, and you don't get the Grammy, but you got the nomination. It's so very few people in the world who get to be number 3 of anything out of the top something in the world. And very few people get a Grammy nomination. But what's the process like? What you're thinking about when you make it that far? If you're not number 1, you're number 3. What's the entire process? Take us through what you were thinking, how you embraced it, your last day on the show from that perspective.
Right. I mean, for me, I just each step that I took, I was constantly making a new goal. So at first I was like, I really just want to make it through this Vegas round, and I would love to get to the top 40. I just made all these goals and let it, just continue to, I was constantly being challenged and inspired. So by the time I got up to the top 10 or 12, I really wanted third place, to be honest. And it's funny because you'll hear how a lot of different things go down, but I just had a feeling that third place would be wonderful for me and only me, because you have a little more time and a little more space to create your own brand, and in my case, to actually be able to co-write a record and be able to just kind of steer the way a little bit more, because otherwise, when you're second or first, you go directly into a contract, and it's wonderful. Don't get me wrong, like they get to tour and it's just kind of all set up. The pieces are all ready to go, but for me, that wouldn't have been. I wouldn't have enjoyed that, because for me, it's more about artistry and being able to create what you feel like you've been planted here to do.
If you didn't get selected for American Idol,
Yeah.
what would you have done? What would that have looked like?
I mean, it's funny because I always pictured myself getting out to LA and, California and living out my dream, but I didn't imagine it would happen quite this quickly. I'm sure I would have been in Chicago, maybe going to Columbia or DePaul University and gigging my face off. I don't think that would ever change. I would still be working my hardest to be exactly where I am, but I definitely wouldn't be exactly where I am. So it's pretty neat to think back.
What do you so what is it like after you placed third? That's happened. What happens after that? What happens when someone's selected number 1? What happens after the show? What don't we see?
It's just a whirlwind. I immediately go out to New York and all over the place to do press, and you're kind of whisked all over the place, and it was a great experience. And then everybody's situation is different. So for me, we dove right in and started to rehearse for the Idol tour, which is about a 3-month, 50-city tour, and we go off within the States and then to Canada and the Philippines. And I was lucky enough to get signed to Interscope shortly after the show, and 19 recordings. They kind of they take on everybody, like about maybe even the top 40, but then they decide who they're going to keep after the show is completed. So yeah, I got right in with them, and I kind of put my foot down and said, hey guys, I know you want to crank it out like everybody else is, but with all due respect, I think, first of all, to allow myself my own time and space to come out with something instead of being the idol buzz, would be nice. And then secondly, and most importantly, to be able to co-write instead of just putting out, you know, uh, regurgitated pop songs. I don't know. I wanted to make it clear that I was in it for the long haul, you know, not just a flash in the pan type deal.
When did you decide to leave Chicago in terms of it being your place of residence?
Once the show was over and I was with now Interscope 19, which was halfly recordings, halfly management, then I also got put up with my lawyer who was in LA, my business manager, my agent, CAA. So you have an entire team, and there's really no choice but to be close to your team. And that is crazy, you know, for me to say because I have such a close bond with my entire family. But it was a no-brainer. So after the tour happened, that was it. I went from, you know, all over the world to maybe went home for a week or two and then moved to LA. And that's been that ever since. It's been almost 4 years now. So
talk about LA. What's it like in Los Angeles for someone in the entertainment business? What's the entertainment business like?
Well, it's a very fickle business. I'm not going to lie to you guys. But it's also extraordinary. You just have to find your champions. You know, there's going to be a lot of people that have a lot of ideas and, you know, for you. But it's up to you and your gut. I would say your gut will lead you in the best direction. And it has for myself so far because, you know, I think the people that are most passionate about you and your project and where it's headed, those are the ones that you want to keep close. There's a lot of politics involved, and when there shouldn't really be, you know, but that's just something that you have to learn about. And I've taken, you know, through my lawyer, I've taken publishing and legal advice classes and things like this just to educate myself on my, you know, I need to be educated on the entire craft. It's not just about being a singer and, you know, having the look that you want, but you need to be well-versed in plenty of different things because you will not stand a chance if that's what you think it is solely based on.
Is it the same for a woman or a young woman in the entertainment business? Is it different? Do you feel, or do you recognize do you recognize being a female in that environment? And do you think it's different for men in the business?
You know, aside from a female, I think it's different for an idol, for an American Idol, because on the one hand, a lot of things come easy to you, and you get great opportunities like performing for Muhammad Ali for 3 years in a row. Yet there's the other hand where there's a wall there, and I've been able to break some boundaries, like playing at a Lollapalooza. Nobody's ever gotten to do that because they look at us like we're this cookie cutter, you know, squeaky clean little bunch, and 10 pop out every year, and it's just not that way. Like everybody's had a life before Idol and during Idol and after Idol, so it's a constant. I don't want to say struggle, but in a way, like you're given things, and some things you have to work a little bit harder.
But don't you think the cookie cutter piece is because the way the show is positioned, as if everyone's a novice? The whole magic of American Idol is anybody can sing, and a great artist can come from anywhere. Anybody can do it, and it's all a random act. And the magic is in everybody watching, people from all these different hometowns in America, and someone will be selected, and it's just the luck of the draw. You don't really get to see
Right. They think it's an easy in. It's a golden ticket. Like I've heard that quite a lot, and it's like, you know, somebody needs to put a documentary together. It might be me because there's so much that goes into it. It's a lot of hard work. It's so draining, and you give so much on so many different levels. You know, once the tour ended, I figured if I could handle this show and this tour, I can do anything. You know, And I mean that in the best way, because I wouldn't regret any of it. I was kind of the underdog during the show, so I got a lot of flack, and maybe I didn't always deserve it. Maybe I did sometimes, but like I gained an extra 9 layers of skin on me. Not that I need any more from Chicago, but no, but it was really great because it taught you to stay tough. And being alone as a 19-year-old girl, getting put up in a random crazy La La Land, the city of LA, it's you really have to have tough skin, you know.
When you got done and you have to deal with agents and accountants and making money, managing money, and business people, what's that process like? And how did you prepare for that, if you did?
You're just thrown into it. And I had a lot of people handling everything for me, which I'm used to handling everything for myself prior. And so it was almost, you had to get used to having a day-to-day who would, be your, like, a hands-on secretary. And those kind of got filtered out. People would kind of get filtered out, people that you've grown really fond of. And then you'd get a new one. And it was really helpful, but a little challenging to get used to that sort of thing. And especially thinking from then to now, I mean, I had everything set up, and I've kind of now eliminated a lot of my team and started from scratch. And
Why?
Well, once again, because a lot of people, things change so quickly in the business. So pretty much everybody that I knew working at my management in the first place is now gone. And
When you say gone?
they've been fired. They've moved on to their next move, their next career, their next job.
So just to talk about that, so what happens is you work with all these people who are responsible for your success, and one day you call the company and ask for the person. Or
Right.
maybe every once in a while you get an email, but a lot of times you call and ask for the person, and you find out, right?
Yeah, it's very cut dry like that. So for me, it's been now almost 4 years later, and I'm like, it's time for a refresher, and I needed to rebuild a team and get back those cheerleaders. And you just it's crazy now because I've learned so much in a short amount of time. So now going from all the big machines, having the big 19 management and the huge Interscope, label, and CAA, it's just kind of like you've been there, you've done that. Maybe you'll go that route again, but at least this time around, I am now in so much more control, and I know my way around things. And at the moment, I'm managing myself, which is a big challenge, but also really, really valuable. And I realize, each day, all the things that I'm handling for myself. Once I do get another manager, it's gonna be wonderful to sit back and say, I actually know what's going on. I know where my money's going. I know everything that goes into the budget and the backline. And if I need to, I can do it on my own. And it's a really, I think it's a precious thing to be able to have all that in your back pocket, because you never know, And you should be in control as much as you can in your own career.
When you watch these stories on TV or in the paper, or hear the story about such and such had $100 gajillion and now they're broke and they're and you sit back and say, if I had $100 million, how is it possible that you could lose $100 million? Is it something you understand now of how someone could have $100 million and it'd be gone?
Oh, I get it. Yeah.
Tell us how that happens.
Through the business manager, through the accountant, you have to ask questions. You cannot be afraid. And I will be honest, for me, I was very intimidated by certain members of my team, and for years, a few years go by, and I feel intimidated and afraid to even ask certain things. And it's like that is the only way that you will know where things are, where your deposits and reimbursements, everything. You need to have a checklist, and it's so important. And you hear about, what is it, Willie Nelson, a million artists out there that have just uh, they had it one day and the next day it's gone.
Talk about when you made the decision to um, really take control of your own business, what that was like. And did you know a lot of other artists who did that kind of a thing?
You know, I know that a lot of artists start off with an entire team and then things trickle down and they end up on their own. Um, I don't know if it was as much their decision as it was mine. I made these decisions and it was really tough because there were people and things that I had to leave, and I don't believe in sending an email. I believe in walking into an office, looking the big guy with the cigar in the eyes, and saying, "Hey, man, this is what I expected. This is what's not happening." And this is what needs to happen, and I gotta walk. But either way, whatever it is, like it's so important to have that real connection with somebody. My parents just taught me that because it's scary. It's so scary if you're gonna walk into a multi-million dollar management or label, and you're gonna tell them you could do without. It's kind of a crazy, surreal experience, but it's worth it. If you really feel that strongly about it. So you got to do what you got to do for you.
Talk about the artists who are out today, the best of your ability, to give an honest opinion on what do you think, who do you like, and I don't want to get you into who you don't like type of situation, so on the cover of some magazine tomorrow, but talk about,
Yeah.
maybe,
Where does this go?
yeah, no, I mean, maybe there's something that you are against that you think is important to be vocal about. Maybe not. I don't know.
Sure. I think that there's a lot of I like the artists that really put a lot of time and thought into their brand. There's people that are a little more underground that are now coming up, like Janelle Monáe or Corinne Bailey Rae. A lot of these singers that you will see them not on the front cover maybe of People magazine yet, but they're the ones that are performing with the legends, with Prince, and they're into things that scream longevity, and that's to me what's most important. I think that the people that are cranking out singles, and it's a singles world today. I can, I guess I'd have to agree, but it doesn't make it right. I think that the people that remain true and give you a full body of work that makes sense and portrays who they are instead of just trying to get the quick buck. That's who I am into, And there's a lot of artists in the pop world that are, I don't want to name names, but, it just comes off super trashy. And I think it's a terrible, to call yourself a role model. It's quite sad, to kind of put yourself out there and expose young girls and things of that degree. For me, my music, I really try to reach out to young women and women in general and just kind of motivate them and keep them positive, and that's important to me. I think everybody should have those kind of things that they are passionate and strictly care about.
Talk about social media. It's, your career getting started. At the time, 20 years ago, everybody would learn about you and have access to you only through TV and interviews you do. You came onto the world stage at the height of social media and people starting to recognize, you've got to respond, or stories break that way, or people...
Right. It was the first year of Twitter. And that sounds weird to even say because of how crazily it's blown up, but I really envy the time where you didn't have to deal with any of that, and I really do. And I'm a huge fan of of all the oldies, so the classic rock and whatever else kind of artists are out there that are still living on. But when I first got out of Idol and they set you up with your Twitter account and all that, I was a ghost. I didn't touch it, and it was probably not a good idea, strictly because of how much more you could gain out of it. But I didn't care. And now I've definitely learned the benefits from it, and it's quite interesting to have a personal connection with your fans. Like there's a lot more pressure on us and things that we have to keep we have to keep track of now. But I understand.
Not me with my 5 fans.
Oh, shut up. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. But I think there's a lot of benefits. Everything, there's a balance, So I think there's a lot of rights and a lot of wrongs to it. But again, I think the balance is the most important part, to not let it control you. Why are you in this business in the first place? You got to keep asking yourself these questions and reminding yourself, I'm not in it for the 5 million likes on Instagram. It's about what you're trying to spread out to the universe and those kind of messages that you want to portray.
So some of our students tweet some of the best lines and ideas from the day and Facebook things. Of course, they all have to blog in the class for their grades. But if they sent you a tweet, would you respond to it?
Well, hey, if I'm on it that day, you never know. I'm really trying to be better with it. Honestly, aside from even just the social media, YouTube, there's a lot of ways that artists on the positive side that we can get out there without a label. That's a pretty cool aspect of it, is there's people that are breaking themselves in, and you don't really need anybody at this point. So really, that's a pretty incredible movement for the young or old, whoever, artists of today.
How many Twitter followers do you have now? Roughly.
I don't know, over 100K, something like over that. I don't know.
All right. So what we do now is we do a word association and a prose questionnaire. So I ask you, I say a word, you tell me the first thing that comes to mind.
Oh, man.
I ask you a question, you say the first thing that comes to mind, and then we open up for questions from the students.
Okay.
You ready?
I think so.
Reality television.
This is hard. Okay, American Idol.
American Idol.
Singing.
The Voice.
Lame.
Honey Boo Boo.
Ridiculous.
Sitcoms.
Funny.
Live performance.
Real.
Acting.
Characters.
Chicago.
Love.
Los Angeles.
Secondary.
Lady Gaga.
Freakishly. That's not a word. Freaky. In a good way.
What is your favorite word?
What's my favorite word? Music.
What is your least favorite word?
Poop. I don't know.
What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
This is supposed to be a one word?
First thing that comes to mind.
Candles.
What turns you off?
Lies.
What is your favorite curse word?
There's too many. Come on. Try to keep it classy.
What is your favorite curse word?
Shit, why not?
What sound or noise do you love?
Birds.
What sound or noise do you hate?
Barking.
What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Motivational speaking.
What profession would you like not to do?
Garbage lady.
If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
You did it right.
All right. First question for Haley Reinhart.
Should I call him out? All right, let's go start at the back. Hey.
Okay, I might have missed this because I walked in late, but let's say that while you were on American Idol, like you caught a cold or something, and it just messed up your voice. You couldn't sing anymore. You know, a lot of other famous people, it's like it was either make it or their life is nothing. You know, what was your backup?
Most of the time we would, we initially, somebody spread like a sinus infection. I never had one before, so we all came down with it. And throughout the entire show, there was a lot of points where we were sick. We were completely hoarse because not only did we have to film the show, but we were constantly filming other segments for it or doing meet and greets or what have you. So we were constantly like, just kind of had to plow through, and I think I kind of gained like this really growly kind of thing, and I'm pretty sure it was solely because of that fact that I was kind of on overdrive and just kind of had to push through, and it's live, so you have to do what you got to do. But there's all sorts of weird things that went down, we did like a zombie commercial shoot, and I had contacts in, and I ended up getting both of my corneas scratched, so I had no vision pretty much. I was just constantly crying, so I had to get Fox to make me like several different prescription sunglasses in case I wanted to wear them. I refused to last second because I didn't want to be called a diva, but these are like these constant things that you're having to kind of decide between, It's interesting. Anyone? Yes, ma'am.
I was wondering what so you said you grew up with rock and roll. What other influences do you have, and what are your latest musical discoveries, your interests?
Just my parents, now it's been about 40 years of them playing in a band together, so they kind of went through all the times, so I grew up with, I love everything from Zeppelin to Sly and the Family Stone, and grew up with a lot of blues records with my dad and jazz. And today, I think that there's a lot of great alternative kind of rock pop scene that's coming back around. So, Arctic Monkeys and Black Keys and Fits and the Tantrums, and there's a new wave, and I'm not mad at the combination of electronic and real instrumentation. If it's done right, I think there's some really cool stuff coming out. Cool. Did you have something?
Yes. I found it interesting that you said that you really only wanted third place, and that's what you got. And often, we only achieve what we project to achieve. But how do you think you would have felt if you went further? Would you have quit because you knew that you, not quit, but would you have somehow sabotaged yourself so that you wouldn't have gotten that you'd have to sign the contract position?
Well, I think no matter what, I would always give everything my all, so I would go through with it. But who knows if I would be as happy,
Because I think it's, as soon as you said it, I thought that was very smart, because it's true. You're pretty controlled for a year. I meant the first two, the
Sure.
two.
Yeah, sure. And instinctually, I just and I like what you said, that maybe your projection, wherever you see yourself being, that's where you will be. I think there's a lot to that, whatever you project into the universe, but either way, I would never give up. I would challenge the system is what I would do. I would go head to head with the guys like I still had to do, being a third place finalist, and kind of lay it down as much as I can without getting in too much trouble. Yes, ma'am.
So Nicole told us that you were going to be singing tomorrow with Ryan. Is that true?
Yes.
Is that what's bringing you to New Orleans, or do you actually have like things going on here?
I mean, I've been here several times now, and the first trip was actually, this is pretty cool, but it was a craft gig at the House of Blues through Idol, and they chose a few of us to perform there. I happened to be staying at the Royal Sonesta, where Irvin's club, Jazz Playhouse, is, and I sat in with him, and somebody caught video. It went kind of viral. Irvin then asked me to, do Carnegie Hall with him and these other amazing performances and venues. So now it's kind of cool looking 4 years later. I'm playing the House of Blues with Irvin and Nojo. And we're doing Zeppelin, Queen, and Nirvana songs in a jazz style. So it's going to be quite interesting. You guys should come out if you can.
Do you have any other works?
I mean, I'll probably just be sitting in at different places, but this is the main thing. So yeah.
Is very humble, and that's very admirable, because you would think that being top 3 in American Idol would make somebody kind of boastful. So I want to ask you, what keeps you sane? What keeps you so humble?
Thanks. I mean, I would really, I kind of owe everything to my parents, so I think a lot of it stems from, how you grew up, what you grew up with, and not to say that you can't make your own decisions for yourself after, but yeah, they do. They're far away, but I have them on the phone with me throughout pretty much everything. I'm constantly asking for their guidance. They're really the only ones I can truly go to get not only a legitimately honest response and answer or critique, but their passion is my passion, so that remains the same. Yes.
What projects do you have in mind for the future as of your music? What genres would you like to fuse maybe or play around with?
So right now I'm working on an EP, and I'm really kind of am a chameleon, and I like so many different things, and it's pretty crazy working with different producers. At this point for me, I have a lot of different sounds going on, and I kind of need to hone in on what I particularly want. I want to write kind of, more globally, and I think a lot of stuff that I end up going back to is just kind of this worldwide kind of, whether it's about global warming or just making people aware of things and trying to help people realize what we can all do to change things in our society. But and genre-wise, I mean, everything I do is pretty sultry, but I'd love to do a jazz album. I'd love to. My first record was kind of like new wave Motown feel. This next one, I think I just want it to be very raw, gritty, and epic. So we'll see. I would love to incorporate more strings and horns and just kind of make it a full and organic production,
Last 2 questions.
Anybody?
Going once?
I have a couple more. How about your social media accounts? Do you handle them personally all the time, or do you have someone else help you out with that?
I do. At one point they started to. Somebody through the management was dealing with it, and I said, this is not going to work out. If anybody's going to do it, it's got to be me. And I think a lot of stars and celebrities after so long, they realize the same thing. Like, you need to keep your brand authentic, and nobody's gonna be you like you are, and nothing. That's also goes with the thing, like, whatever you want to portray, nobody is going to be able to do it better than yourself. So yeah, it's important that how often or how little I'm on it, it's gonna be me.
And what kind of content do you post?
I like Instagram a lot. I do, put out pictures. I think that it's cool because you could take that and then kind of just press a little button that sends it to your fan Facebook and your Twitter, and, just kind of keep them all interweaved. But yeah, a simple photo says a whole lot. So when I'm traveling around the world, I wish I did it for longer, because I feel like a lot of people missed out on some really cool experiences of mine. So, but it's a pretty.
So you do mostly promotion through social media. Do you do like personal stuff? Do you post like personal thoughts or?
You know, that'd be cool. Not really. I do a lot of gigs, and thankfully I have a lot of really dedicated people that follow me that will film it and put it up. So, you know, we're constantly, in that case, sharing intimate stories and new material and covers. So, you know, there's a lot of content, but it's something to look into. Thank you.
Last question.
Yes. Have you played with Corinne Belly Ray?
No, I've met her during Grammy Week a few years ago, and she was wonderfully sweet, and I feel like that would be amazing collaboration. But no, not yet.
All right, well, let's thank our guests.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
See y'all.
Have a great day.